Welcome to the Man of Recaps. This is Suits, full series recap. Meet Harvey Specter, the super cool, smooth-talking lawyer who wins every case. In fact, he's known as the best closer in the city. Tonight, after another successful close, Harvey's promoted to senior partner. That means it's time for him to hire an associate, but none of these stuffed shirts would make a good Robin to Harvey's Batman. Enter Mike Ross, who's currently taking the LSATs, the law school entrance exam, but he's not taking it for himself. He's got a business taking the test for other people. Passing the test is easy for Mike, but if he's so smart, why isn't he a lawyer himself? Well, he was on track to be, but Mike was poor, so his best friend Trevor convinced Mike to make some money by helping people cheat, and that got him kicked out of college. So these days, Mike is wasting his life just sitting around with Trevor smoking pot. In fact, Trevor is a marijuana dealer, and he needs Mike's help for a big new deal, trying to enter the big leagues, selling to a rich client in a fancy hotel. But Mike realizes this deal is a sting operation set up by the cops, which is hilarious because pot was legal like 2 years later. So as Mike's running from the cops, he hides in plain sight with a bunch of other young men in suits, and he finds himself accidentally interviewing to be a lawyer. Immediately, the latch on his suitcase breaks, drop in a ton of pot, and Harvey thinks it's all hilarious. But Mike's like, hey man, actually, I really want to be a lawyer. Turns out he's got the entire law book memorized because Mike has a photographic memory, which, by the way, is not actually a real thing. Harvey likes this kid's gumption, so even though he's not a licensed lawyer, all right, you're hired. So Mike starts working at Pearson Hardman, one of the most prestigious law firms in the country. The first piece of advice Harvey gives him, you gotta get some better suits. There it is, the name of the show. So Harvey teaches Mike how to be a lawyer, which turns out is mostly just walking down this hallway, making witty quips and quoting old movies at each other. There's also a lot of paperwork, which with Mike's memory, he can handle no problem. And they only use physical copies, their poor printers working overtime, because instead of saying check your email, it's much more dramatic to walk in and drop a folder on someone's desk. Now this is not a courtroom show, they rarely go to trial, because once it's in the jury's hands, you can't control the outcome. Instead, they dig up the hidden evidence the opposition didn't want you to find, so now you've got them by the balls, and they gotta settle for a bunch of money. Yet here they practice corporate law, which means they're representing big companies against some poor individual who's obviously on the right side of justice. Mike always feels bad, he wanted to be a lawyer to help people, but Harvey's like, yo, stop being such a softie. But Harvey's secretly a softie too, and he always finds some loophole like, our client is the company, not the bad CEO, so it's in the best interest of the company if we fire him and get justice for this employee. Every episode something goes wrong, and it looks like they're gonna lose the case. But early on, Harvey teaches Mike, when they've got a gun to your head, you don't do what they say, there's 146 creative ways to get out of it. And indeed, just then, someone says something completely unrelated to the case that makes Harvey go, wait, that's it, now I know exactly what to do. Another win for Harvey Specter, but Harvey does not do high fives. The big tension throughout all this is Mike having to hide the fact that he's not actually a lawyer, which turns out to be harder than originally thought because Pearson Specter only hires from Harvard Law, which is not a very big place and no one remembers Mike. Pretty soon, Mike befriends a computer hacker who gets him in the Harvard system and prints him out a nice diploma. The boss here is Jessica Pearson, Harvey's longtime friend and mentor. Every episode, she lectures Harvey, don't do that reckless thing you're about to do. But Harvey always does it anyway, because he's a maverick, and that's why Jessica likes him. Yeah, Harvey likes living on the edge, playing in the big leagues for the highest stakes. He tells Mike early on, normal life is like this. I like this. Harvey's rival at the firm is Louis Litt, who doesn't have Harvey's flair, but apparently he's a very good lawyer and is jealous that Harvey's promoted to senior partner before him. Louis is in charge of the associates, so he and Mike have funny interactions. And Louis is a silly guy who likes all sorts of non-manly things like cat's ballet and mudding. It seems like his job is mostly to come across as a huge loser, so Harvey looks cooler by comparison. Another main character at the firm is Harvey's longtime assistant, Donna, who has a supernatural ability to always know what's going on. She and Harvey have a secret pre-trial ritual involving a can opener that is a mystery for the whole series. But Mike's favorite new coworker here is hot paralegal Rachel Zane, with whom for Mike it's love at first sight. Rachel would make a very good lawyer, but she's bad at taking tests, just can't pass the LSAT. Mike and Rachel flirt constantly as they're working long nights together, and it's a constant back and forth as one moment, oh, it's totally on, but then Mike does something stupid and Rachel's mad at him, it's back off. Soon though, Rachel has fallen for Mike and these two have their first kiss. But this was unfortunate timing. Mike had just started seriously dating a girl outside of work, Jenny. In fact, Jenny was Trevor's girlfriend, but she broke up with him after Mike revealed he was a pot dealer, which somehow she didn't know? Harvey Specter is a huge player who we see have a series of one-night stands, but there's one woman he keeps coming back to, his law school girlfriend Dana Scott, Scotty. Anytime these two go head-to-head in the courtroom, they also go head-to-head in the bedroom. Harvey seems happy with their situation, but they're not young anymore. Scotty's gotta move on. In fact, she's engaged. Sorry, Harvey, this was goodbye, and Harvey has missed his chance. Meanwhile, Trevor is always getting into trouble. Mike had tried to cut him out of his life, but he always comes back to help his friend. But things are getting more serious with Jenny, and Mike hasn't found the way to tell Trevor yet. Rachel has realized she loves Mike and calls to tell him how she feels, but Trevor listens to the voicemail and finds out Mike is dating Jenny. Now out for revenge, Trevor goes to see Jessica and tells her Mike's big secret: he's not actually a lawyer. So in season 2, Jessica knows Mike's a fraud and tells Harvey you gotta fire him. But Harvey has come to really like this kid, and so he makes the bold move: if he goes, I go. Jessica has come to like Mike too, and even though she hates that his secret is endangering her firm, she agrees to keep it for now. When Mike finds out it was Trevor who told on him, he cuts him out of his life for good. And when he hears Rachel's voicemail, he grabs her for an office kiss. Yeah, girl, I love you too. So Mike and Rachel start dating for real, and it's a happy one episode, because then Mike decides his secret is putting Rachel in danger, and so he dumps her with no explanation. So Rachel is real mad, and Mike's secret destroys its first relationship. The big problem this season is the return of the firm's other partner, Daniel Hardman. He left work to spend time with his sick wife, but now that she's died, he's coming back, and this is bad news for Harvey and Jessica. They discovered that Daniel Hardman was embezzling from the firm to hide an affair, and they blackmailed him to get him out. Now with his wife dead, they've got no leverage, and he's coming after him. And now Harvey is being sued by his archenemy Travis Tanner, who's accusing him of hiding evidence to win a case. Now Harvey operates in the gray. From the very first episode, he pretended to have evidence he didn't to win a case. Fabricating evidence is illegal, but bluffing is totally fine. And speaking of bluffing, Harvey's a big poker player. You don't play the cards, you play the man, and so Harvey always wins. So Harvey would never do anything actually illegal, and Donna agrees. I've never seen this before, but when she searches the old files, she finds it with her stamp. It looks like she just missed it. So now, to protect Harvey, she does destroy the evidence. But Harvey does not approve, so they go to the bathroom for a big fight. Yeah, the bathroom is where everyone goes when it's time for a big fight. Gender be damned, no one cares. It's hilarious how often they're walking in on each other here. So Donna made too big a mistake. Harvey can't let it go. He's got no choice but to fire her. But after one episode with a different assistant, Harvey begs Donna to come back. Yeah, Harvey and Donna are inseparable. But now Daniel Hardman uses Harvey's legal troubles to call for a vote to replace Jessica as managing partner. The deciding vote is Louis Litt, who's still mad that Jessica didn't make him senior partner, something that now Daniel Hardman does. And so Daniel Hardman wins. Jessica and Harvey are demoted. A depressed Harvey goes to Mike's apartment, where these two smoke some ganja. But while they're high, they have an epiphany. Daniel Hardman planted that fake evidence to make Harvey look bad. So they bust into the partner meeting with proof of Daniel Hardman's crimes. But luckily it's a big table and no one reaches to check the files, cause Mike didn't find proof. Yes, he totally bluffed him. But bluffing works when you're right, so Daniel Hardman is fired, and that's the last we'll see of him. During the whole power scuffle, Louis bugged Harvey's office, and when Harvey finds out, he's real mad. You and me are done for good. So Louis Litt is going to resign. But while Harvey kind of hates him, they're also kind of friends, so Harvey forgives him and allows Louis to stay. And this becomes an ongoing thing. Basically every single episode, they have a huge fight. That's it, we're done for good. But next episode, they always reconcile. The office romance has cooled off this season as things have been awkward between Mike and Rachel. Rachel's father, by the way, is Robert Zane, another big attorney in the city. Rachel doesn't work at her father's firm because he doesn't believe she has what it takes to be a lawyer. One day Rachel works a case against her father and proves that she's tough, so he admits she's got what it takes, and father and daughter reconcile. And Rachel has been studying to take the LSAT again, and this time she passes. Yeah, she's gonna be a lawyer. Mike's parents died in a car crash when he was young. He was raised by his funny grandmother. But now Mike's grandma dies, and he and Rachel become closer again. But at the funeral, he reconnects with his high school girlfriend, and you know what they say, grief is nature's most powerful aphrodisiac. So when Rachel comes over to tell Mike how she feels, oh, the other girl's in his bed, totally busted. Now Louis Litt has found romance with the Harvard recruiter Sheila Saz. We check in on them from time to time, getting up to silly stuff in the bedroom. But now who's this? It's Daniel Hardman. Yes, he's back. He's coming after them with some big suit that they don't have the manpower to handle. They need to team up with another firm, so Harvey goes to Scotty, who ended up dumping her fiancé. She's based in London with an English firm led by Edward Darby. And for the first time, Harvey and Scotty are on the same side, so their tryst is better than ever. Jessica Pearson has a plan to defeat Daniel Hardman for good. When she blackmailed him originally, she signed a non-disclosure agreement so she can't tell anyone about his embezzlement. But if she and Darby's firms were to merge, he would have to look at her books where he could discover for himself Hardman's embezzlement. So under threat of revealing it and sending him to jail, Hardman agrees to drop all the cases, and that's the last we'll see of him. And the merger's going through. It's a good deal. Everyone's happy with it. Everyone, that is, except Harvey, who thinks this is his and Jessica's firm, doesn't want any other names on that wall unless it's Pearson Specter. Scotty's like, Harvey, don't you see? If we merge, then we are working together. We can actually date for real. But Harvey's not getting it. So Harvey makes Darby a wager. They go against each other in a case. If Harvey wins, they don't merge. But Jessica's not happy about this. Harvey, it just proves you're too immature to be a named partner. So Jessica goes to Mike and forces him to work against Harvey and tank the case. Harvey feels betrayed. That's it, Mike. You and I are done. Until one episode later where Harvey forgives him and they're back to normal. So Harvey lost the case and the merger goes through. But Scotty's going back to the London branch. Sorry, Harvey, this is goodbye. You missed your chance. Now, Rachel passed the LSATs, but she did not get into Harvard Law. And since Harvard is mandatory to work at this firm, she asks alumni Mike to write her a letter of recommendation. Without a good reason of why he'd say no, Mike decides to reveal his secret. I'm not a lawyer, I'm a fraud. Rachel is pretty mad, but now with emotions running high, anger turns into sexual tension. And so it is a steamy scene as Mike and Rachel get it on, right here in the file room. So in season 3, Mike and Rachel are together, living in romantic bliss. Except, of course, it's television, so every episode there's some drama, and Mike reacts like an immature douche, and they have a massive fight. But by the end of the episode, Mike apologizes, Rachel totally forgives him. If this were a real relationship, it would be wildly toxic. The big case this season is for Darby's friend, Ava Hessington, who is head of an oil company. She's been accused of bribing a foreign government to run a pipeline through their country, which of course she did. That's how business is done. With Harvey's legal expertise, he's able to squash the charges against her, until the charge becomes murder because the general she bribed then killed some people. To fix this mess, Darby calls in his closer, Stephen Huntley, who, it becomes apparent, is just the British version of Harvey. Donna takes a liking to him, these two start flirting hard, and soon begin a torrid affair. She tells Harvey about it. It's cool, right? Yeah, of course, we're just friends. Except we see in a flashback that when Harvey and Donna were first working together, they definitely liked each other, but wouldn't date while they were co-workers. But on the night they quit the DA's office, they were no longer co-workers, and Harvey and Donna got it on. But when Harvey started at Jessica's firm, they had to make a choice. We can date or work together, and they chose to work together. That's why they had to invent a new non-sexual pretrial ritual, which involved a can opener. So now we realize Harvey and Donna have always loved each other, and it seems like they are endgame. Louis Litt gets in a feud with his British counterpart. It escalates into a big mock trial over custody of their cat. Louis now is a senior partner, so he hires his own associate, the straight-laced Katrina Bennett. They get a funny thing going where she's supportive of all his schemes, becomes his cold-blooded minion. She started off on the wrong foot with Mike, and these two became big rivals. But eventually working a case together, it turns out she's pretty cool, and Katrina and Mike become friends. But Harvey's mad at Jessica now because she doesn't think Harvey's ready to be a named partner. As Jessica butts heads with Darby, she enlists Harvey's help in kicking him out. But Harvey's got to admit, I already made a deal with him to kick you out. But this is all to be expected, so Jessica forgives Harvey, and now grants him his deepest wish and puts his name on the wall. Meanwhile, they're losing the oil case because the general's testifying that Ava paid him to kill those people, but Mike discovers the big secret: that general is old rugby buddies with Stephen Huntley. They realize Huntley arranged the whole thing, but didn't tell Darby or Ava, so they would have deniability. So Harvey walks in on him in the bathroom to punch this douche in the face, and Darby, who does not condone murder, signs the deal to put him away. But Jessica hid a clause in that deal, effectively ending the merger, so our firm is independent again. It's Harvey's dream, just Pearson Specter. With the merger over, Scotty comes back, so where does this leave me? And Harvey's finally ready to commit. Let's date for real. And so it's a period of blissful romance as Harvey and Scotty are finally together and working on the same side. But working together is not so great because Harvey's an immature man baby who yells at his coworkers all the time. But it's the final straw when he's hiding something. He won't tell her Mike's big secret, that he's not actually a lawyer. And so Mike's secret destroys another relationship. Lewis's relationship is going great. In fact, when he has a heart attack, he decides to propose to Sheila. But they forgot to have an important conversation. Lewis definitely wants kids, and Sheila definitely does not. It's a deal breaker for both of them, so even though they're in love, they break up too. One night, Lewis was reading Mike's Harvard transcript, just for fun, but he finds something strange that the hacker couldn't have known. She gave Mike an A+ in a class that the professor famously does not give A+. Mike manages to talk his way out of it, but this was way too close, and now Mike has to admit he doesn't have a future as a lawyer. A new opportunity presents itself when Mike wins a case for an investment banker who now offers Mike a job. It's mostly the same job, winning deals with creative problem solving, but no license is required. And so at the end of season 3, Mike Ross is leaving the firm. But Mike doesn't go very far because he's hiring Harvey as his lawyer. Mike's got a big deal in the works, planning to buy some company, but Harvey has another client who's planning to buy the same company, so it's a conflict of interest. But this is exciting for Mike and Harvey, who instead of working together will now get to go head to head. Rachel Rachel's still working at the firm part-time while she's going to law school. Not Harvard, just Columbia, so she can stay in the city. The firm's making an exception for her. She volunteers to work on this case, going directly against Mike, because she and Mike are feeling confident they can keep business out of their personal lives. Of course, they're completely wrong and argue more than ever this season. The big problem is the client is in fact Rachel's ex, and these two somehow delude themselves into thinking they won't let this case get personal. But of course they're wrong, and this simple case turns into a huge personal fight. Rachel goes over to this guy's apartment to clarify there's absolutely nothing between us. But then I guess she forgets why she's here and accidentally makes out with him. And of course Mike responds maturely by rushing over to beat this guy up. And Mike's not willing to talk it out. That's it, Rachel. We're done for good. Until 2 episodes later where all is forgiven and they're back to normal. The deal meanwhile has gotten nasty. Neither Harvey nor Mike are willing to back down. In the end, Mike has a way to win by partnering with shady investor Charles Forsman. And indeed he pulls some shady stuff and cuts Mike's firm out of the deal. So Mike is fired. Now that Mike has no other options, Forsman offers him a job, and Mike thinks he has to take it. But as Mike goes in to accept the job, he runs into Louis Litt, who had also just been tricked by Forsman into accidentally tax evading for him. So to stop Mike from working for a criminal, Louis offers him a job back at the firm, and Jessica, without revealing Mike's secret, has no excuse to say no. So Mike's a fake lawyer again, now a junior partner with his own office, and everything is back to normal. But this deal they just did attracts the attention of Sean Cahill with the FCC. It seems pretty suspicious that best friends Mike and Harvey worked against each other on this deal. Seems like it was collusion. Harvey and Mike did not collude, so check our files, there's nothing to find. Except, of course, for Louis's crime doing the tax evasion for Forsman. So Louis has to come clean. I kinda made an oopsie. But Harvey knows all about Forsman's tricks because he fell for the same thing years ago. So Forsman comes to Harvey's office to gloat, where he talks pretty specifically about exactly what crimes he committed. But yes, Harvey was wearing a wire. He made a deal with Cahill to take Forsman down, and Harvey and Cahill become kind of friends. But Louis Litt's oopsie was too big to forgive, and Jessica finally fires him. Katrina Bennett is also fired by association, but she and Rachel had become friends by now, and she has her dad offer her a job. Mike had become kind of friends with Louis, and as he's helping him move his stuff out, he's like, hey, what's this funny key? But that key is a Harvard thing that Mike should absolutely know about, and there's no talking his way out of this one. Louis finds out Mike's secret. He uses it to blackmail Jessica to finally get the respect he deserves, and so the firm has a new named partner, Pearson Specter Litt. For a few episodes, Louis goes full villain, starts being cruel to all his former friends. But once he learns Mike's full life story, he understands where he's coming from, so he apologizes to everyone, and we've reached a new normal. But Mike's secret isn't done causing trouble. Jessica has a new boyfriend at the firm, Jeff Malone. But he knows Jessica's keeping something from him. She won't tell him that Mike's not a lawyer because that would implicate him. And so Mike's secret destroys another relationship. But Mike's relationship is going great. He and Rachel get engaged, even though they spent this whole season fighting and literally broke up in the middle of it. Harvey and Donna have a moment where, oh, are things getting romantic? But Harvey stops it. He's afraid of their dynamic changing. But this will they won't they isn't working for Donna anymore. She commits to we won't and leaves Harvey's desk. So in season 5, Donna's not working for Harvey anymore. She temporarily works for Louis Litt because his secretary Norma just died. She had been a running joke. We kept hearing crazy things about her, but never actually saw her. But soon Louis gets a new secretary, the sassy old Gretchen, who is a good fit for Louis Litt because she knows how to handle his eccentricities. But when Harvey realizes Donna's serious, she's not coming back to him, he starts having panic attacks. So Harvey starts going to therapy, which to be honest he desperately needs because he's an immature man baby who throws a tantrum whenever he doesn't get his way. In fact, around this time, the show has gotten pretty bad. It's devolved completely into people just yelling at each other all the time for no reason. The main case this season is something where Daniel Hardman's back again, but Jessica shuts him down again, and I guess it's time to admit that's not the last we'll see of him. Anyway, Harvey's therapist helps him realize that all his problems stem from when he caught his mom cheating on his dad, and that made him mad. So she helps Harvey grow as a person, and he reconciles with his mom. But Harvey's still up to his old tricks when he helps Louis's sister with her divorce, and oh no, she's hot. So as soon as she signs the divorce papers, she and Harvey get it on. Louis is pretty upset and comes to Harvey looking for a fight, which Harvey is happy to give him, but oh, it escalates quickly. That's why you don't have glass furniture, people. For Louis, this is the final straw. He and Harvey are done for good. Until next episode, when Harvey apologizes and they're friends again. Mike and Rachel are happily engaged and things are going great at work. Until Mike has a case where the other lawyer is his ex-girlfriend who knows for a fact he's not a lawyer. So Mike remembers that he already decided it was too dangerous to keep this up. He has to quit the firm. But this time it's too late. Yes, it's happening. Mike is arrested for fraud. The person who finally leaked his secret was Louis's ex-girlfriend, Sheila Saz. As the Harvard recruiter, when she saw Mike's name in the law journal, she knew for a fact he did not go to Harvard. But Mike is planning to fight these charges, so they hold a mock trial to test out his defense. The main obstacle he's got to overcome is that no one from Harvard ever remembers seeing him there. But Mike has a decent plan. He's claiming that he lived in New York and was commuting there just on test days because of his photographic memory. That's all he needed to pass. But Trevor comes back to testify against him. Mike was my roommate. He wasn't going to Harvard. But Harvey's able to discredit him as a drug dealer who Mike stole his girlfriend, so he's got a grudge. In the end, it's going to come down to the jury, which we learned at the beginning is a total crapshoot. So the prosecutor's willing to make a deal. If Mike or Harvey commit to 2 years in prison, the other will get off scot-free. And so it's an intense finale as Mike and Harvey race each other to take the bullet for the other one. And it's Mike who gets there first, going to jail to protect Harvey. And so it's finally happening. Mike's secret is out. He's going to prison. So in season 6, Mike Ross is in jail. But it's white-collar jail, so it's full of accountants and stuff. Except for literal murderer Frank Gallo, who Harvey in fact put away. He's gonna get revenge on Harvey's friend, so on night 1, Mike is almost shanked. Harvey's working to get Mike out of prison and makes a deal with Sean Cahill. He wants Mike to convince his roommate to testify against his father-in-law who was insider trading. And in order to control the situation, Harvey takes his father-in-law as a client, so while he's acting as this guy's defense attorney, he's colluding with the prosecution, which is super illegal, but I guess only if they're caught. So Mike's convincing his cellmate to testify, which at first is not going well, but Harvey plays them a recording of how he's happy to let his son-in-law and daughter take the fall for him. So it's like, oh, screw my dad then, yeah, we'll testify against him. But now on Mike's last night in prison, Frank Gallo's here to finish the job. But Mike had planned for this. He records Gallo attacking him, so he's getting him put away back to maximum security. So Mike's a free man again. His 2 years in prison became 2 months. Meanwhile, back at the firm, Mike's big scandal caused basically everyone to quit. This left just our core crew, but they decide it's a good thing. We'll start fresh with only the people we like. And of course, Lewis. Lewis has a funny plot where they sublet their office to finance bros who pee in all his lit mugs. He hires an architect to build a wall, and Lewis falls in love immediately. She's got her own baggage, in fact. She's pregnant from her ex-boyfriend who she broke up with like last week. But Lewis, who wants kids anyway, is happy to rush into a marriage, and so it seems it's gonna work out. Until he reveals he knew that Mike wasn't a lawyer, and somehow that is crossing the line. And so Mike's secret destroys another relationship. But one relationship is mended as Jessica reconnects with Jeff Malone, who's realized her not telling him Mike's secret is really not a big deal. In fact, she's gonna work with him, moving to Chicago. So yes, Jessica Pearson is leaving the firm. End of an era. Harvey wants Mike to rejoin the firm. He doesn't need a law degree to be like a consultant, but his stint in prison has made Mike remember why he wanted to be a lawyer in the first place. So instead, he joins a nonprofit clinic where he can help people that no one else is helping. Unfortunately, the lawyers here are not top-notch, and without a law degree himself, Mike can't jump in to help them. And so Mike has come to a decision: I want to be a lawyer for real. Of course, that's nearly impossible. The bar would never let him in, but the head of the committee needs a favor from Harvey, getting him out of a situation that is legally gray. And so when Mike applies to the bar, this guy's like, yeah, I'm fine with it. But his former prosecutor will veto it unless Harvey admits he knew Mike was a fraud when he hired him, which would get Harvey disbarred. But instead, Jessica Pearson comes back and admits it was her who hired Mike. Go ahead, disbar me here in New York. I'm living in Chicago now anyway. And indeed, she gets her own short-lived spin-off where she's living in Chicago, taking down the corrupt mayor. And so it's finally happening. Mike Ross is a lawyer for real. In season 7, with Jessica gone, Harvey and Lewis are getting along for about 2 seconds until they argue about which of them will be managing partner. It comes to a head when they go to the bathroom and Harvey's like, yo, it's obviously me. And Lewis is like, yeah, they're right. Donna gets a promotion too. She's way more valuable than a secretary. She's made chief operating officer. Now that Harvey's head of the firm, he's able to hire an old friend he always wanted to work with, Alex Williams. He becomes Harvey's new main partner while Mike is busy doing pro bono cases like this one about a prison that's extending people's sentences. But there's a big problem with this case for Alex. He needs Mike to drop it. Eventually, the whole story comes out. They're doing super illegal stuff, but it was Alex's old firm that was managing it, and they made it look like Alex was the one doing it. So they make a plan to pass the case to Robert Zane, who's able to blow it wide open, while Harvey and Alex pull some moves to get the blackmail on his old boss to clear Alex's name, and so the day is saved. Harvey has an interesting romance thought where he wants to date his former therapist, which she knows is a bad idea, but he talks her into it. But now that things are getting serious, Donna realizes this is her last chance, so she shows Harvey how she feels by giving him a big kiss. Harvey's pretty mad about it. I'm not secretly in love with you, Donna. But his girlfriend's like, I was your therapist. I'm pretty sure you are. There's a big shakeup in Lewis's love life when Sheila Saz has moved to New York to be with her new fiancé, but now that it's naughty, Lewis Litt is too hot to resist, she and Lewis have an affair. Eventually she realizes she loves Lewis and calls off her engagement to be with him for real, and to make this relationship work, she's willing to give up her own wants and needs and have kids to make Lewis happy. Now the big case at the end of the season is when all their former partners who left when Mike went to jail are suing them for restitution, but they discover it's a secret plot for a hostile takeover by Robert Zane's firm. But Robert Zane didn't know about it, his own partners are playing him, so they find a way to come out on top by merging firms ahead of time. And this is pretty exciting for him, he'd finally get to work with his daughter Rachel. But meanwhile Mike has been crushing it, doing class action cases that help people, but also earn massive settlements from big corporations. He's approached by another lawyer who's starting his own firm doing exactly this kind of work, and he wants Mike to be his partner. This is a perfect job for Mike, but it's over in Seattle, and he has to start right now. Rachel's offered a job there too, and it's like, you know what, let's do it. So Mike and Rachel have their wedding, and they live happily ever after. And Mike Ross says a final farewell to his best friend and mentor, Harvey Specter. I'm proud of you, kid, but I'm gonna miss you, cause Mike and Rachel leave the show. So in season 8, Robert Zane joins the firm. All the named partners are getting along for about 2 minutes until Harvey and Robert argue about which one of them will be managing partner. It's Donna who comes up with the answer. Lewis should be managing partner. Turns out, actually, managing partner is a lot of busy work, so Harvey and Robert are okay with it. And so it's actually happening. The firm just got lit up. Now, Harvey had promised Alex Williams that his name would be the next on the wall, but Robert Zane made the same promise to his right-hand woman, Samantha Wheeler, who's a badass kickboxer. The only fair way to resolve this is to have these two go head-to-head, but both of them are real good lawyers who are willing to do whatever it takes to win, and so pretty soon things get nasty. Eventually, they're willing to make peace and get both their names up at the same time. Now there's just way too many names. Lewis and Sheila are having fun trying to make a baby, but the best fertility doctor in town was Lewis's high school bully, and one episode Lewis randomly gets mugged. All of this is to say he spends a lot more time with Dr. Lipschitz. Now that they've merged with Zane's law firm, it means Katrina Bennett is back, and Lewis makes good on his old promise to her to make her senior partner. So Katrina picks her own associate, a nice guy Brian, and they work late nights together just like Mike and Rachel. The office romance blooms. But this one is no good because Brian is married. These two think they can be just friends, but somehow they keep ending up in romantic situations. And so in the end, Brian decides he has to leave the firm. Donna finds a new romance with one of the firm's tall clients, and very quickly it gets serious. He's in the middle of a deal right now with one of the firm's other clients, but turns out this guy's playing him, and Harvey can't reveal it because of attorney-client privilege. And even though he doesn't tell Donna, she can read it all over his face, and Donna really likes this guy, so she tells him and he breaks off the deal. But the other guy figured it out, and he's suing them for breaking privilege, and the lawyer he hired is none other than Daniel Hardman. Yes, he's back again. But as Harvey's about to be disbarred, Robert Zane steps up and claims it was he who broke privilege. He's had a long, successful career. He's ready to retire now anyway, so he takes the bullet to protect Harvey. This shuts down Daniel Hardman, and now, for real, that's the last we'll see of him. Now, as Donna and this guy are getting serious, Harvey has an epiphany and realizes this is his last chance. He goes to Donna's apartment to show her how he feels, and yes, it's finally happening. Harvey and Donna get it on. So in season 9, Harvey and Donna have figured it out. They're in love and dating for real. But the firm has a big new problem. They've been through so many scandals in a row, the bar has sent in a special master to oversee them. And she's ruling with an iron fist, starts messing everything up. Now that it's the final season, Mike comes back for one last ride. He's suing one of Harvey's clients, which for them is all in good fun, except that client's not Harvey's anymore. He's passed it on to Samantha Wheeler. But Samantha doesn't know this kid, and she's still in win no matter what mode, pulls something slightly illegal. Harvey goes to yell at her. First of all, don't do that to Mike, and especially not when this lady's watching. And naturally, she overhears and fires Samantha Wheeler. But this lets Mike take her case and sue this woman for unlawful termination, so she forces Harvey and Lewis to defend her in some complicated situation where, like, you have to do it or else I'll shut the firm down, and you can't tell Mike either. And so it comes down to a big case where Harvey and Lewis are going against Mike and Samantha, and of course things get nasty. Eventually Harvey tells Mike the situation, and Mike realizes we're not going to win by following the rules, we're going to win by breaking them. So the next morning, when this woman's about to sign something, Mike busts in and starts a huge blowout fight with Harvey. So when she finishes signing the paper, oops, we pulled a switcheroo, you just signed something totally implicating yourself for breaking the law or whatever, and there's no loopholes, so we win. So our crew controls their firm again, and the day is saved. The series ends with Louis Litt's wedding, and right then Sheila goes into labor, so they have a baby. And since the venue was already paid for, Harvey figures may as well use it, and he proposes to Donna. And so Harvey and Donna get married and live happily ever after. In fact, Harvey comes to a big decision. He wants to work with his best friend Mike, and so he's going to leave his firm and work with Mike in Seattle. Louis Litt has grown quite a bit. He and Harvey have become true friends, and he's happy to leave the firm in his hands. Now the 3 current named partners are willing to add one more. Yes, it's Katrina Bennett. It's a little sooner than they plan to promote her, but they want to get her name on the wall now, because this law firm has been through way too many name changes lately. They're committing to stick with this one for a while. And so Harvey Specter leaves his office for the last time, and that's where Suits comes to an end. If you liked this recap, hit that subscribe button for more of the best recaps of TV and movies.